Welcome to season 4 of the Be Your Own Kind podcast. I am so excited to share some new ideas and experiences with you and also introduce some more wonderful and fantastic people on the platform. Be sure to visit our site, www.beyourownkind.com, to be able to keep up with the latest news and the latest blogs and content. Also, we have a Facebook community that involves giveaways, touch base, and exclusive deals. If you like the content, be sure to tip your girl a matcha tea on Ko-fi, located at ko-fi.com/beyourownkind24. Thanks again for your continued support and enjoy the episode. Well, good evening, Jeremy. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Can't complain. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's almost Friday. I have to keep reminding myself it's Thursday because I keep feeling like it's Wednesday, and I don't like that feeling.
This whole week it feels like it's a different day than it is. I've got that. Yeah, but I'm unemployed, so every day feels like Friday to me right now.
Oh man, that sounds like freedom to me, but
it kind of is. But severance pay is the only thing that makes it freedom. So
yeah, it's true. So, welcome to the Be Your Own Kind podcast. Thank you for taking out the time to be on the platform. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Gladly. I'm 34. I'm a husband, a stepfather to two. I host one podcast and I co-host two other podcasts. I am a busy man.
Very busy. What's the name of the one that you host?
I host Paranormal, the New Normal.
Okay. And then you co-host the what's the name of the one you co-host?
I co-host Maniacal Music Musings, and I also co-host another show called Global Strangeness.
Okay, so I thought that was one whole title. Like
Oh no.
Okay. I'm like, that's an interesting title. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the three podcasts?
Of course. Paranormal, the New Normal is a paranormal interview show. I have people from all walks of paranormal and spiritual life on, whether they be psychics, mediums, pet mediums, which are always fun, people who have worked for the government before and know things about extraterrestrials and UFOs, or people who are paranormal investigators and go to houses trying to help people solve their haunting problems, or also people who are looking for Bigfoot. I mean, the list goes on forever on that field. So it's just a show of me talking to the guest, and it's all about the guest. They get to talk the whole time, basically. So.
Oh wow! When I think of paranormal, I think of like The Exorcist and the actual movie. What was it called? The Paranormal movie, I believe that's what it was called.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, Paranormal Activity. Yeah, that creeps the crap out of me. But stay with the dead.
Most hauntings are not that severe. It's just Hollywood has to make it look as bad as possible in order to make it, interesting. But it's just, there's a lot to the paranormal field. There's tons of cryptids or unknown creatures out there that people supposedly see. I mean, the existence of Bigfoot and dogmen's a whole nother thing that it's just how long till the government tells us they know about it. But I mean, and with UFOs getting shot down in America over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of hot topics going around the paranormal world right now. So
I missed that. I think I'm clouded by Instagram and I don't know, Nicki Minaj and Chris Brown. They've been taking up my entire week, so I missed those. How is Nicki Minaj constantly? Okay, this is off subject. How is she constantly trending? Yet she puts out no music. Like, it's amazing. I'm like, she is a superstar for doing absolutely nothing at this point. And I'm like, that is stardom, where you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to put out anything. And if you go outside, you are constantly trending on Twitter. She is constantly trending on Twitter. The
Kardashians did the same thing, but
yeah, I guess there's a difference because Nicki. Okay, let me not say what I'm about to say. Nicki, has like an album and writes her own things and stuff. I don't know. There has been I don't know, a question floating around like, what exactly are the Kardashians' talents?
Having a stepfather who went through some changes. That's what their talent is, and being related to O.J. Simpson's case. That's basically all their talent.
Yeah, but they're rocking whatever it is. It's got to be some type of hidden talent that we just don't know about, because they're like millionaires.
Because I honestly can't explain how they got famous, because it just mystifies me to this day. The fact that Keeping Up with the Kardashians ran for like 20 seasons is beyond me. It should have been canceled after one. Like, I don't get it. I can't get into it. People like it, whatever. That's their choice. I mean, but they stayed famous by dating famous guys. That's how they stayed famous. I mean, Kanye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think that fits in paranormal, in my opinion. But
well, it's funny you say that, because part of paranormal is conspiracy theories. And
okay.
I mean, the Kardashians have been a conspiracy theory in my mind for a long time. I think they're Illuminati, but I don't know.
Another thing about Illuminati, does that really exist, or is that just something that's just floating? Because I mean, I think it may exist, but does it exist to the extent that everyone is like saying it is, like with blood sacrifice and killing of family members? Like, is that really a thing?
Well, I mean, the way I see it is, whether you want to call it Illuminati, whether you want to call it New World Order, some body of people are controlling the world and making all these strange things happen, in my mind. Like, I mean, and they say that Rihanna at the Super Bowl this year, because she was dressed in all red, and because she gave the symbol while she was performing, like that, you know, that she was basically giving a hint to the Illuminati. They say the same thing with what's his name that performed at the Grammys, Seth or Sean something.
Oh, Sam Smith.
Yeah, like they said the same thing about him being part of the Illuminati because of that. Like, I don't know. There's something going on. I can't put my finger on it, but do powerful groups of people who have a lot of money control the world? Oh, I would not. I would bet on any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I know they control it. I know that they control the masses. They know they set what's trending. But the fact of, like, I don't know, like, I feel like it gets too deep. Like, a family member can't die, or a celebrity can't die without them having been murdered. Like, there's no more natural causes. It's just people just out murdering people for the sake of murdering people, and I'm just like, that gets to be too much to me. So
I mean, in a world where the conspiracy of Epstein Island exists, and we almost have that one proven, I kind of stopped disbelieving things at this point. Like, everything seems believable. Like, if I never would have thought that island would have existed, and then bam, all of a sudden, oh, it exists, and we arrested the people who ran it. Oh, look, they're dead. Something's not going right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, something's not right with the world, and that's why I love the paranormal, because it's trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. And do we ever get answers? Once every couple hundred years, like when the government admits that UFOs are real. That's the only time we get answers. But other than that, it's rare to get answers in the paranormal world. But it's interesting topics, and there are thousands of podcasts about it, but I want to throw my hat in the ring and try to get my own podcast. Actually, Global Strangers is a paranormal podcast as well. It's a discussion podcast. Me and my two co-hosts, Deborah and Scott, every Sunday night at 9:00 Eastern. We go around picking topics each week, and we bring up a topic. We just did a Bigfoot episode last week. Our first Bigfoot episode, actually. It'll probably be one of like 6 or 7, but there's a lot to go out there with Bigfoot. But including Bigfoot erotica, which is so prevalent, it's ridiculous. I'm serious. If you go to Amazon and search Bigfoot erotica, you'd be surprised how many books come up.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of those two words in the same sentence. Let's know.
I didn't until I heard a Bigfoot erotica author interviewed on podcasts. And then I was like, what? People actually want to read that? I'm like, I gotta start writing books. God. But
yeah, and it's a popular genre, huh?
well, I mean, paranormal erotica, I'd say, is a popular thing. I mean, whether it's Bigfoot or vampires or werewolves, like it's some more of the classic horror erotica too that falls into that category. But I mean, because women for 100 years have loved reading vampire books with the hot vampire guys and even hot vampire girls for the guys out there. I mean, they go both. They make it work for everybody. But it's just the paranormal world is a very big world. There's a lot of subcategories and even more subcategories underneath those. So there's always something to talk about.
Okay. I'm curious, what I guess what interests you about the paranormal world? Like what, besides I don't want to call it a rabbit. It kind of is a rabbit hole sometimes. Like you said, you don't get answers right away, so it's just a lot of theories just out there. Like what makes you stay in the rabbit hole?
See, I mean, when I was a kid in the 90s, none of this stuff was talked about in general public like it is today. But I always found, I was a big library kid, and I always found one or two books that had Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and aliens in it. And it always just, it amazed me. It amazed me that these things could be real. Like, is there really a big primate that's makes me look small, and I'm a pretty big guy. It makes me look small, and it could be walking around my backyard one day. Who knows? I mean, I actually do live near a Bigfoot hotspot, so it's possible. But so I mean, they're all over the world. That's the thing. Like, once you start watching like shows like Monster Quest and stuff like that, like in the early 2000s, like it's just these things are spotted all over the world. They just have different names because people name them different things in different areas. But I mean, they're spotted all over the world, and they're not the only thing, too. I mean, there's lake and sea monsters spotted all over the world, like Loch Ness, or Ogopogo, or Bessie, or I mean, I can go down. There's a list. Trust me, there's a huge list of sea monsters out there that people have named. But I mean, it's stuff that's been being seen since the beginning of time, too. That's the funny part, is that I mean, we all know sailors and pirates saw sea monsters. Everybody said they were drunk, but they saw something and they had to have seen it. And they saw giant squids too, but no one believed them until we discovered them about 15 years ago. The colossal squid is now a thing that nobody thought existed. Everybody thought it was drunken pirate talk, but now it's a real thing because we finally dove deep enough to find them. So, I mean, there are plenty of paranormal. I mean, gorillas were once paranormal creatures, but when white men started going to Africa for horrible reasons, but when they started going to Africa, they heard legends of these hairy men that live in the woods, in the jungle, that come and kill the Africans. And lo and behold, next thing you know, we found gorillas. So, I mean, a lot of animals that we know about today were once cryptids, were once unknown creatures that just scared people. So, is there a chance there's a big hairy primate in the woods, or monsters in the sea, or living dinosaurs even? Yeah, there's a chance. And if you check out Paranormal the Normal or Global Strangeness, we talk about all that.
You got my mind running. I know I got quiet because I'm thinking about like something today that may seem as a theory. Like you said, years from now, it may actually be, found out and discovered like, hey, this person wasn't losing their mind. Like this actually exists. So,
I mean, there are actually states in the United States where Bigfoot is on the endangered species list. To stop people from trying to hunt it.
He could just be a really big bear or a really big gorilla, maybe.
Well, gorillas don't live in the United States. Most primates don't live in the United States at all. I mean, Florida.
I go to the zoo.
Yeah. I mean, Florida has chimpanzees because of people with illegal pets, but other than that, like, I mean, they don't. Mostly the country doesn't have primates living in it, like, except for humans.
Oh yeah, we are technically a primate. You are correct.
I
remember that from school. Yeah, I remember that too.
the most popular theory is that back in caveman days, there was another species that we knew existed called Gigantopithecus. it was supposed to be a 8 to 10 foot, based on the skeletons we found, but 8 to 10 foot humanoid. And so we originally thought it went extinct because humans killed it off, like they did like Homo sapiens killed off every other caveman species. We thought they killed that off too. But the theory is, what if they saw the humans were killing them off, so they went a different direction and went to hide in the woods? And that's what Bigfoot is. And they've been existed since the beginning of time. I mean, Gilgamesh, one of the oldest.
To say that, yeah.
one of the oldest epics, Gilgamesh, a Mesopotamian superhero, basically. His best friend in his epic, Enkidu, the way they describe him, people think he's either a Bigfoot or a Dogman. Like it goes back a long way. I mean, Egyptian gods. I mean, Aztec gods. All these gods in different countries were animal gods, half animal, half human. So, who's to say these creatures didn't really exist, or that they weren't based on things that these ancient people were seeing, either come from the sky or existing on Earth?
Right, and now that you're talking, I know in Genesis it mentioned giants, half human and half angel.
Nephilim,
they were labeled as giants modern day, but back in the day they were just really, really tall. So I think that kind of correlated with the skeletons that you were talking about. People based it on that, and just some people based it on the scripture.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also the thing too. I mean, supposedly they all got killed off in the flood that Noah survived, but
right.
What if some of them survive by going into cave systems or something?
That's true. That was the purpose of the flood in the first place, because they were acting a fool. So that's what that was why the flood happened in the first place. So yeah.
I mean, there's so many theories at the end of the day. I mean, it all comes down to what it all comes down to what people believe in, what they're.
Exactly.
I mean, religion does play a huge part into it in a lot of paranormal world. Like, religion plays into a lot of different aspects, and people dispute things or agree with things because of religion as well, which, I mean, I myself am agnostic. I don't want to give my belief to anything until I have definite proof. I know there's something out there. I know there's things out there I can't explain that happen. I've talked to people who talk to angels, supposedly, and they don't seem like they're lying. They don't seem like they're saying anything that's not true. So, I mean, these things have to exist. I mean, I live in a haunted house with two spirits, for God's sake. So things exist out there. I don't want to say I believe in this or that until I have proof.
And that makes sense, because that's what paranormal is all about, right?
Exactly.
Until you have proof, then it's just a theory until you have proof. However, you collect the evidence along the way. So
exactly. I mean, I can easily talk about Bigfoot for 3 hours straight and give a lecture on it if I had to, because I have heard so much evidence about it over the last 10 years that I can easily just keep rattling off things, and hopefully people listen. But
yeah. Okay. So you have another podcast about music. So before I just want to know what is your favorite genre of music? Do you have a couple of favorites, or what you dibbling dabbling?
I will say I have two favorite genres of music.
Okay.
And they're complete opposites. I love horrorcore rap, like Insane Clown Posse, Cottonmouth Kings, 3-6 Mafia, or early 3-6 Mafia. I'll add that emphasis in there. But so I like horrorcore rap. And I also love symphonic metal, like Nightwish, Avantasia, a lot of bands from Europe. Like, I love metal. It's orchestra music and metal music put together, like Trans-Siberian Orchestra. That's the best way to say it, because everybody knows who they are.
Okay. I more know the people in the hardcore rap category. My husband is a huge fan of 3-6 Mafia, so I have the luxury of listening to them. Which we always say that most of their beats sound alike, but then the more I listen to it, I'm like, maybe it is a little bit of distinctness. I
like 3-6 Mafia before they got big. I like And it's not
Oh,
it's not hardcore, it's horrorcore. It's like
okay.
horror movies, but horror. It's like horrorcore. It's
What's the
horrorcore hardcore.
difference between hardcore and horrorcore?
Because horrorcore music talks more about like horror movie subjects, like people killing each other. It talks a lot about serial killers that are real or fake ones they make up. Like it's very story based rap. I mean, and it's usually almost like it's like listening to someone rap a horror movie. Almost a lot of them.
So
I mean,
Eminem?
Eminem is hardcore. Yeah, he's technically.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that sounds Eminem-ish. Yeah.
I mean, fresh. I mean, Will Smith's "Nightmare on My Street" is argued to be one of the first horrorcore songs. I don't know if I agree with that, but I mean, I love it. It's a great song. I mean, Will Smith has a lot of great songs, but I mean that I don't know if it's the beginning of horrorcore, but I mean, they also say what's their names with Fat Boys or why can't I think of their name? But Freddy's coming.
Fred. Oh.
Yeah, Freddy's coming. Like what's their name? The Fat Boys or
I don't know.
we just did a Halloween songs bracket back in October, and I had them on it. I forget that, but Freddy's coming. It was a rap song they did for the theme for Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Oh, okay.
What the heck? I cannot remember their name.
I don't know. I was horrified of Freddy Krueger, so anything with his name or anything associated to him, no.
Oh, I mean, Nightmare on My Street actually is a little bit creepy. Like when I was a kid, it used to scare me. But like that song is, even though it's Will Smith, like the most non-abrasive rapper ever.
Right.
It's still horrifying. That song is still horrifying when you're a kid. Just the music, like the Nightmare on Elm Street theme music in the background, like that music just evokes horror. But
yes, just associating Will Smith with horror. Well, I don't know. Nowadays, he's a little scary. So
only if you make fun of his wife. But
right, he has limits.
But I mean, yeah.
So do you think? Do you think that music nowadays, like the newer artists, are they just as creative as the artists from the past?
I see. It's a double-sided question there, but I mean, I think certain artists still are. I don't think any of the popular artists are creative at all. I think they rinse and repeat everything. A lot of the underground artists that are trying to make it are creative because they have to be. I mean, I'm trying to think of who I can even say, because I mean, lately the newest stuff I listen to is symphonic metal out of Europe. I mean, the bands that are still putting out stuff from there. I mean, other than that, I mean, even horrorcore rap is hit. I mean, there's still some that are creative, but a lot of them have just been not producing as much music these days. Or the music they've been producing, I've had a chance to really listen to. I mean, I'm a huge Juggalo. I love Insane Clown Posse. They were creative as hell in the 90s and early 2000s when they came out with their Joker card set, and all their music they came out with was creative because no one ever did anything like that. Right. Like a fantasy world of a Christian fantasy world, or there's a dark carnival and that's God judging people as a dark carnival. Like, I mean, come on. Who could have thought of that besides them?
Right. Well, do you think when you reach a certain status, like as an artist, you don't necessarily have to be creative anymore? Because people are just, like I just said earlier, people just follow you from what you've done in the past, and you don't really have to do anything present day, Well,
I mean, yeah. I mean, look at Kanye. He went crazy, and people still love him.
Yes, he still has an entourage. He definitely does, but it's based off of what he started, like the origin, the high school dropout. People are still loving him from his first project, and so they just tell along. So I think after a while, the artists realize that, and they're just like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, they do. Even Insane Clown Posse realized after a while, like, we don't even got to put out that good of music anymore. We can just put out music that sounds like us and bands that sound like us, and we're gonna make money. So let's just go with it. Like, I mean, everybody hits that point. I mean, Marilyn Manson did it too. Like, he hit a certain point where he knew his fans would always follow him, and I mean, I like everything he's put out, except for a few songs here and there. But I mean, pretty much everything he's put out has been amazing. But it's not as good as it was in the '90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite artists that I think still well tried up until the early 2000s. Madonna albums, even though some of them were underrated, they still was an album. You know, Ariana Grande, she still produces albums like where you could just listen to it from beginning to end. So, like you said, it's not everybody, but some people just
Well,
that's famous, they don't have to.
That's actually the point of our show that we do is it's an album challenge show. So we bring albums that we love for the most part from beginning to end. I mean, sometimes we'll bring an album and we'll be like, all right, I don't like this track and this track. Just a heads up. Like when, on the show, I should say, like, yeah, I don't like that track. It's just not a good track, but the rest of the album is bomb. But we bring albums that we love, and you'll see me and my co-host Chancey bring albums that you probably never even heard of a lot of the time. I mean, yes, we bring some popular stuff. We've brought Blue Oyster Cult. We've brought Savage Garden. I mean, we've brought
I like him.
Van Halen. I mean, it's just we've brought a lot of famous bands that we like. But I mean, I brought Elton John album a couple weeks ago, but it depends on what it is. We let our guests pick their album first, and then we try to match it with something we think can stand up to it. So, and a lot of times it's just stuff that no one has not stuff that no one has heard of, but stuff that the other person hasn't heard of. I mean, but I've gotten introduced to a lot of good music a lot of good bands from my co-host. Like, Dog Fashion Disco. Never heard of them before I met Chancey. They're now one of my favorite bands. Like, they do the weirdest music possible, but they do it in a way that it's so catchy and good. It's just like, oh my God. I mean, it's just, we have taught each other a lot about music, and it's great. Our guests love it too, because it's a way to learn about new music.
Yeah. So when do you guys air that podcast?
We usually do that one Tuesday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, because that's when my co-host gets off work. And it can be sporadic though, depending on scheduling guests. We've had some issues with guests lately not coming through like they're supposed to. But
that happens.
Yeah, that's the podcast world. I have that issue on both podcasts, and I'm used to it. But
yeah,
I don't have backup episodes of Maniacal Musings set to go always. So that's the issue. My paranormal show, I have enough. I already have my all my episodes going out through the end of March, basically ready to go. So it's just, at this point, it's just interview whenever I can. But that show, it's kind of hard because like we don't have backups, so we need to do something this week to get a show out. But it's hard. You can't just record one of those episodes because you have to listen to 3 CDs or 2 CDs at the least, and we're gonna do like just the 2 of us episode. So, I mean, and I don't want to record multiple times a week because then I have to listen to like anywhere from 4 to 6 CDs, and it's just, I don't have that time.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Overload a little
Exactly.
bit. Yeah.
I mean, it's like when we do our brackets that you were talking about before we went out recording, like the clips you saw, those brackets you have to listen to 34 or 36 up to 68 songs for those brackets if you don't know the songs already. So, I mean, if you don't know the music, I mean, some of them I know all the music because it's my band. I'll still listen to it because I mean, like this weekend we're doing a Chuck Berry bracket. Oh. I knew maybe it's only 34 songs, but I knew out of that maybe 2 or 3 songs of his. So I was listening to all of it last weekend while driving to go see in-laws. Like I was listening to all of it because like I never even heard most of these songs, and I want to give them the due respect they deserve because Chuck Berry is a legendary performer.
Right. So it's some preparation for the show.
Oh yeah, I mean I do more preparation for that show than I do for any other show I'm on because I don't need to for other shows. Other shows are just free flow conversation. So It's just go there and talk about things I already know about. Right.
So Jeremy, you have 3 podcasts just streaming along. First of all, where do your podcast stream from?
Global Strangeness you can mainly find on YouTube and BitChute and Rumble and a couple of, I don't control where that one goes. That's my co-host Scott. So it's on YouTube. I would go there, and we're on Spotify as well. But I don't know if he's updated all the episodes recently. But YouTube's the best place for that. But my two shows that I run and edit behind the scenes, Paranormal the New Normal and Maniacal Music Musings, you can find on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, basically any podcatcher, anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find it. They're both on all 10 different platforms that Anchor allows them to go to. So.
Okay, and a question. So, because you seem really experienced with podcasts, because you have several of them going, what advice would you give to someone that wants to start a podcast? Like,
I actually was on 6 podcasts at one point. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to cut back because my wife was ready to kill me. But if you want to start a podcast, no, it's a labor of love. You're not going to get rich off of it. I mean, I've been doing it I've been on podcasts of my own that I run. It hasn't even been a year yet. And I've made maybe a couple $100 here and there from sponsors and other ways. But I mean, you're not going to get rich. Don't expect to become a YouTube star just because you start a podcast. Like, you need to do it about something you love, and then maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, you get huge. Maybe. I mean, before COVID, podcasting was you had a lot better chance of getting big before COVID. But since COVID, everybody and their mom wants to be a podcaster. So, I mean, I hear on Facebook about podcasts starting every day almost, that people are asking for advice. Like, I'm starting my own podcast. I'm like, good luck. If you don't, I would say, I'm like, you're not going to make money right away. Don't depend on it. Have a job. Like, it's not going to pay your bills. It's not going to pay your bills. Like, I had mediums that had been in my show and tell me, like, when I lost my job recently, like, this is time to focus on podcasting and to try and make it into something that's monetary. And I'm like, I wish I could, but I don't see that as a possibility when I have kids and a wife to worry about. Like, I have to support them. Like, I can't depend on that. Like, if I was living in my mom's house, then yeah, sure. But I would take the time and work on it. But I have a mortgage to pay. Like, I need a real job on the side. But podcasting is a labor of love. I do it because I love talking to people. I like meeting random people. I like to talk to people such as yourself that I didn't know existed. And that's the great thing, is I get to meet you now, and my podcast circle is huge because of all the different shows that I've guested on, because people that have been in my show. I have more friends through podcasting than I ever had in real life. And that's a great feeling, because I now have 1.8K followers on Facebook because of podcasting. When I started podcasting, I had maybe 400 friends. So it opens your world completely. Like, you're going to see people, you've seen in people's heads things you never imagined existed. So it's great. I mean, it'll open your world, and it'll make you feel like you're more connected to the whole world, basically. I've had people on my shows from Europe, from Africa, from, I don't think Asia yet, but someday we'll get there. Australia. I've been on Australian shows as well. Like, so it's just all over the world. It's amazing. I mean, South America. I've had South American people on my paranormal show as well. So it's incredible the way it works. And you'll meet people all over, and hopefully someday you make it big if you want to. But I don't count on it. I'm not depending on it. It's just something I do. I have a following now. It's a small one, but it's a following, and I appreciate every one of my listeners. And I tell them that every episode, like, I do this for them because they want to hear more content, and because all the reasons I just mentioned. But it's a labor of love. Someone once told me that when I first started out, and that's advice that I took to heart, and I kind of always pass on.
Yeah, you are exactly right. Because a lot of people that start their podcast, you'll go back and maybe they made it 1 season or 2 seasons, and then you haven't heard from them like 2-3 years, because it is labor. It's a labor, like you said, a labor of love, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of preparation, a lot of trying to get guests, topics, things of that sort. So you have to make sure that, number one, like you said, choose a topic that you love, and number two, make sure that you love podcasting. Number one, because if you don't and you're just looking to make a quick buck, you will be sadly disappointed. So yeah. And
the last thing I'll say about it is you need to have a personality for it.
Yeah.
I know I've worked with podcasters and known podcasters who it sounds like they're reading off a page, like something they wrote ahead of time when they're doing it. And no one wants to listen to that. No one wants to watch that. No one wants to read you. No one wants to watch you reading lines. Like, no, they don't want to do that. Like, you gotta have the personality to come up with them. You gotta basically be able to do like improv almost, but while staying at home on a computer. I mean, it's just like you gotta be able to think of things on the fly to say. Or I mean, all my podcasts are free flow conversations for the most part. I mean, yes, on the music one we do preparation and we do it with a certain like formula for it, but it's still a lot of off the cuff comments and whatnot. So me and my co-hosts go each other all the time, just off the cuff comments. But I mean, it's just the way it is, and especially on the brackets. I mean, I started off on a bracket show that I don't like to talk about anymore because things went sideways with that one. But even if you're doing a bracket, it's more about you making jokes about the bracket than actually picking the winner, even though it's important to pick the winner as well and see who wins. But it's all about the participants like making jokes about stuff. That's what makes it good. Nobody wants to watch us just say, oh, I picked that one over that one, like the whole time. Like, no one wants to watch that. You got to make it entertaining for people so they can laugh at it.
Yeah, and that's not an easy feat. You are correct. Like, I have my questions, but if we have a conversation, I'm not going to cut off the flow of the conversation to go with that question. And sometimes I don't even reach half of my questions because the conversation just flowed another direction, and I just let it flow because, like you said, it's better that way. I think people are looking more for authenticity than rehearsed anyway when you listening to anything at this point.
I mean, if you want to hear a podcast where it's just people basically reciting a script, go listen to Parcast, because they do that with a lot of shows where they just sounds like they're reading like a history lesson off a script, which is fine. I love that sometimes when I'm driving around or whatnot. I used to drive 8-9 hours a day for my job just all around Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and that's fine. I enjoyed like history lessons like that kind of with people with good voices, but it's not what you want us to do all the time. You want comedy. You want to be able to hear something. And I literally have almost died like in accidents because I'm laughing my ass off at a podcast, and all of a sudden someone cuts me off. I'm like, whoa, okay, yeah, like not time to listen to this podcast. But I mean, if Kevin Smith or Mark Maron said something and I'm driving and I start dying laughing at it, like it could be dangerous, but it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, most definitely. So here at BYOK, we have a signature question, and that question is, if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
Unpredictable.
Why?
Because you never know what's going to come out of my mouth next. Just ask anybody I work with. Thank God for editing, as you said, yes, but
but that's not a bad thing to me.
To some people it is. To some people, if you're too outrageous because you might offend some people, then you're not allowed to be on people's podcasts anymore because you're too outrageous, and because people have no strength. People have no, I don't even know the right word for it anymore, but people are weak. That's the way I want to say it. I don't want to say it in the way I normally say it on this podcast, but people are weak. They get offended too easy nowadays, and everything is offensive nowadays. You can't just speak your mind, and people don't just think anymore, oh, it's a joke, it's fine. I mean, I live for the days of like Archie Bunker and George Jefferson going at each other. Like, that to me is comedy. That's what it should be. But it's too offensive nowadays. Archie Bunker would be canceled in a second if he was still around.
Half of the people would have been canceled.
True. I mean, George Carlin, Andrew Dice Clay. Yeah, I mean, all of them would have been canceled. They're still around. So yeah.
Yeah, like when the Coming to America, the second one came out years later, everybody was like, that wasn't racy at all. I'm like, Eddie Murphy not trying to get canceled. He cannot say the same stuff he said in the original. None of that stuff's gonna happen from the original because it's not the time of day for that. I'm like, Eddie Murphy knew what he was doing. He can't do 80s Coming to America now in the 2020s. He can't do that. It's just not the same. I feel bad for comedians mostly in this.
I do. I mean, it's just sad. I mean, the royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Yeah, that's the first one.
I know. I just actually watched it for the first time a couple months ago, and I am
Oh
ashamed of
my
myself for saying
god.
that. But I just watched for the first time because it came out the year I was born, so I never saw it because it just. I mean, I knew it existed, but I just
Uh-huh.
never saw it. But it's just. I mean, and I'm an Eddie Murphy fan. I grew up in the '90s with Eddie Murphy, but I just never watched. I never went back and watched a lot of his old stuff. So
Yeah,
besides his
that
stand
was
up.
yeah, that's a classic. I saw his Raw maybe 6 years ago. I did watch
Mm.
Raw finally, and it was still funny. And I'm
Oh,
like,
I mean,
it came out in the '80s, and I was really laughing, like
I mean,
crying.
I still like watching freaking All in the Family and Jeffersons, and they came out in the '70s, and they're still funny. Like,
Yeah.
but it's funny because Netflix doesn't pick up those ones because they don't want to get canceled.
No, I mean, they fighting for their little independent films. They be trying to hold on to those because some of those be kind of racist. Like, why did you accept this? But yeah, but you can't. No, it's just not the same. I'll just put it like that. It's just not the
Yeah,
same.
can't millennials and their cancel culture. Well, actually, I'm a millennial, but I don't act like a millennial. But millennials and whatever generation is after that, I always forget. Their cancel culture has ruined a lot of things in this world.
That's a
I mean,
strong statement, Jeremy. Strong statement.
Robin Williams, R.I.P. If he was still hanging around, he would have been canceled from if they heard a stand up.
Really? I don't think I ever watched his stand up.
Oh, watch his stand up from the '90s. Oh my god, or from the early 2000s when he was on HBO doing stand up. Like his stuff got racy. Like the way he talked about religion, the way he talked about a lot of stuff, it just got racy. I mean, oh my god. I mean, I love Robin Williams. I'm a huge Robin Williams fan, and he definitely had issues. I mean, you could tell from his stand up, you could tell like
I have
he
to
yeah,
check it out.
he was no holds barred in his stand up. It was hilarious. Like, and his voice has made it all the better. But
Yeah, I have to watch it. I know Robin Williams from Aladdin and Mrs. Doubtfire, so that is
oh,
I am a fan of his.
Mrs. Doubtfire, which is one of my favorite movies ever, is his stand up toned all the way down to like one.
Oh,
I mean, I may be over exaggerating that a little bit, but still, it's just that's the way it is. Like he is so funny in his stand up. I mean, my dad had CDs of his like stand up, and like I've seen his specials on YouTube and stuff. And back when they aired on HBO, I saw him as a kid. Like they're hilarious. Like, I mean, he was a better stand up comedian than he'll ever be an actor, in my opinion. That's saying something. Same with Bob Saget. Bob Saget was the dirtiest comedian ever.
he
But even
was.
but then he goes and does Full House.
He's like, Dan, like, no, Danny, no. What are you saying?
No, I love it. I love it because I always say they're like me. I advertise myself the podcast as I can be G rated, but I can be triple X rated as well. Like you tell me where on the spectrum you want me to go. Like,
I don't think Dave Chappelle cares.
oh god, no, he don't care.
He don't care about being canceled at all. He just say what he wants.
That's the thing. People always say to me, like, aren't you worried your podcast gonna get canceled if you say something outrageous? I'm like, no, I'm not, because I'm not gonna get canceled. Like, let them try. Let them try. People that really like me are gonna like me for me. I don't care what the general public thinks. I mean, the general public is full of idiots basically these days. I mean, and that's toned down what I like to say about them. But the general public these days is just full of idiots. It is. You watch
I wouldn't say idiots. I would just say a lot of non-thinkers. I think people just ride the trending train a lot, and I kind of say that's due to social media a bit. You know, whatever social media says, that's what goes. So.
Yeah, well, they say video killed the radio star, and I'll say social media killed people's perception of the world.
It killed reality, if anything, in some aspects.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean that movie, Ready Player One, that's gonna be reality someday, and that's scary.
I've never seen it. Ready Player One.
It's based off a two book series, and it's basically everybody lives in stacked up trailers on top of each other, and they all live in virtual reality all day, basically.
Sound
like
the
kind of like well, it's like the Matrix, but it's not forced like the Matrix. They chose to do it. And like it has the typical thing you see where in the game, like everybody's either like a hot guy or a hot girl, but then they show them in reality and they're like a guy that's too big to get off the couch. Like everybody lives in a virtual reality world instead of living their lives because they want to escape from reality, and that's gonna be us someday. Especially with VR becoming more of a thing, that will be Earth. Everybody's gonna be living in virtual reality.
I don't want to think about that. I would hate for everybody to miss out on life and oxygen and traveling and things like that. But yeah, I have to check that movie out though because I never heard of that movie.
It's what's his name? Now you're gonna I can't think of it, but it's the main actor and actress are big. It came out a few years ago actually. Like that came out. I don't even remember when that came out now. I want to say 2015. Oh, 2018. Yeah, it's all right. After you spelled, it's not any big names I really recognize even, but it was. I mean, Simon Pegg's in it, and Ben Mendelsohn's in it. Like some actors that are big, but Ty Sheridan and Olivia Cooke are the main actors, and they're somewhat big actors, but they're not huge. But it was a good movie. It was an interesting perspective on what the future could be like.
I hope that I'm not a part. I think I would get bored just sitting in the house all the time. But then I'm come from I was born in the 80s, so that can explain why I would not. Yeah.
Same. But I mean late 80s, but 80s. And I mean, I used to work remote, and I would literally be home 7 days a week, and I would go out shopping and all that. But still, there's not much to do anymore since COVID. So. And I got kids, so I can't really go do anything I want to. I can't go out to the bar and drink all night. I can't go to a concert anymore, really, because I got no one to watch the kids. So it kind of ruins your fun. But hear this, all youngins. If you want kids, your fun's ruined. unless you have babysitters lined up. But then you got to pay them.
What an announcement.
It's true. I mean, I used to go to concerts and spend 4 or 5 hours at a concert and just have fun, like half a day at a concert and drinking, smoking, everything, and like life was good. But nowadays, you can't do that anymore if you have kids.
Those damn kids.
I could literally start a podcast called that if I wanted to.
Jeremy, it has been so much fun talking with you. Where can people find you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook as Jeremy Bryant. I'm pretty easy to find. There's a picture of me, 2 cute mastiffs. And you can find me as Paranormal the New Normal / Maniacal Music Musings podcast group on Facebook as well. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram as @JuggaloBastard. And you can find me on TikTok as @JuggaloBastard Podcast. Feel free to come check out clips of my podcast or come check out videos of ghost lights in my garage and basement. So, my paranormal side's on there as well. And you can find me on YouTube just by searching any of my 3 show names, Paranormal the New Normal, Global Strangeness, or Maniacal Music Musings. All of them are on YouTube. Every episode releases on YouTube the same day it comes out on podcast. So,
okay. Nice. Anything you want to share? Any future projects or anything you want to just leave with the audience before we sign off?
Well, I don't know when this episode's going to release, but I will say this weekend we have which will probably be after this is already what happened by the time this podcast release, I'm guessing. But we will have a Chuck Berry bracket on Maniacal Music Musings this weekend, and we will also have a serial killers bracket on Paranormal the Normal. And next month we will have a Nightwish. We'll talk about symphonic metal. Nightwish bracket on Maniacal Music Musings, as well as a wrestling theme song bracket for WrestleMania.
Interesting.
And I'm not sure what the bracket for Paranormal the Normal will be next month, but I'm trying to figure that out. Working on that still. I gotta get past the serial killer one first, and I could think of my next idea. But
you know what's weird? I don't like horror movies, but I watch serial killer documentaries all day.
I'm the same way. I watched 80 horror movies this past October for another podcast I sometimes contribute to called Masturbators, and they did a 104 movie tournament for horror movies online, and I haven't seen like 80 of the movies at least, so I had to watch them all so I can comment on them. Like I watched close to 1,000 movies for that podcast, basically. Like it's great though, because it's a lot of movies I wanted to see but I never got a chance to see.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, especially when DeAndre did the Black Movie Tournament, I got to see so many movies that I never even knew existed that are great. That's why I watched Come to America, by the way. But
okay, I'm glad you finally got to see. So, okay, here's a question about Coming to America. So, did you ever watch Busta Rhymes? Which one is that? No, it's not that one. What's the name of that song? Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See. Have you ever seen that music video? Busta Rhymes.
I may have. I mean, I like Busta Rhymes, so I may have, but I don't remember. But
okay.
I mean,
but this defeats the point. That video was based off that movie, so I guess if you hadn't seen the movie, you wouldn't have known that.
I probably wouldn't have drawn it together. I mean, I haven't watched music videos like I used to in a long time. I mean, back in the early 2000s when YouTube first came out, that's all we did is watch music videos. But now YouTube is
much more. Yeah.
now YouTube has developed into a place where my kids watch horrible stuff all day. So, but you know, that's the way it goes. Do they watch
Coco Melon? Are they young, really young?
No. I mean, okay. I have a 5-year-old, but she doesn't watch Coco Melon. She's obsessed with Haunted Happy Meals at 3 a.m. or something like that, and Five Nights at Freddy's they love and all that too. Like they like horror stuff. I don't know why. I mean, their mother likes that stuff. Their mother loves that stuff too, but I just don't get it. Like it's like not something you'd ever catch me watching. But then again, they also watch all the shorts of they made since Wednesday came out. So who knows?
Wednesday was awesome. Did you see that?
Oh, I loved it. I've been an Addams Family fan since the 90s, watching the black and white repeats and watching the movies. So
yeah, I like the movies. I didn't watch the black and whites, but I did see Addams Family Value. Was it Values and Value? No, it's Addams Family Values, and then what's the first one called?
Just Addams Family.
Addams Family. Yeah, I like those two movies. I used to watch those all the time. Yeah.
Oh, I love those.
I'm like, yes.
Christina Ricci and Raul Julia, like it's and well, I can't remember the wife's real name, but I don't know, but it's just amazing.
Angelica?
Yeah, Angelica Houston. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all the actors from that original from those two movies in the 90s. All those actors were amazing, and I swear to God, there was a TV series in the 90s too they had for Addams Family with the actors from the movies.
Was it? I have to look that up. I don't know.
I have vague memories of like 98, 99 on summer break watching like a TV show of them.
I'll look that up.
I mean, there was a cartoon in the 90s too that was great, but I mean, I've always loved the Addams Family. Like, I've always been goth. Like, I've always been goth minded. I've always been dark minded. Like, so I always like this creepier stuff in the world. Not horror movies, but I like the creepier stuff that's like almost horror.
Right, that's straight comedy to me. Like, I love the Addams Family because they don't give a F, and they're their own kind, and that's what I'm all about. Like, they don't care.
Actually, okay, yeah, you just said it. That right there describes why I love them, because that's me. I always been my own kind of person. I never cared what anybody thought about it. Yes, my mom used to yell at me all the time, like, "Don't you want to fit in?" I'm like, no, not at all. Fitting in's not fun.
No, it's not. It's you build your own puzzle, create your own lane. I love that.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, it has been I think we're doing like a Midwestern goodbye. I feel like I've closed this episode like that. And then we start talking about something else. But this has been so much fun. This conversation has been so much fun. And I just thank you for taking out your time and just coming on the platform. And I'm sure everyone listening enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And I will definitely need to check out. I want to watch I'm gonna say this word wrong. Is it maniacal? Okay, I don't have my glasses on. Maniacal Musings. I do want to check that out because I would love to.
You got it right.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I would love.
A lot of people don't.
I was really looking at that word a lot to make sure I pronounced it correctly. Yeah, so I really want to check that out because I do love music. So it would be interesting to hear about or want to listen, to some things I never listened to before. So I am looking forward to listening to an episode.
Oh, please do. You'll enjoy it. Once the first few episodes, we didn't really quite get in our stride yet. Well, actually, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, no. The first episode was funny, but once I started making intros special for each episode, that's when it got great, though, because the intros are what sells the beginning of the episode, and my intros are always hilarious, and my co-host reaction to what I call them. But
yeah, I'm gonna definitely check that out. And Jeremy, don't be a stranger. You're always welcome back to come on here, and we can just chat. I love this.
hit me up anytime you need a guest. I'm always free.
Yes, and listeners, if you have a favorite movie or music that you want to explore, you don't talk about movies. I think we were talking about movies, but music that you want to explore or want to know more about the paranormal world, check out Jeremy. Check him out. He has 3 podcasts. No excuses. Check him out.
Just don't tell my wife you're checking me out.
And until next time, everyone, don't forget to be kind to yourself and to each other. Until next time. Bye.